Okay, welcome everyone, and thank you for making time to come here. This is really one of the boardroom discussions where we've been having these regularly across India and across industries. This one is slightly different in the sense that we wanted multi-industry representation. There will be issues of skill gap that will be common across industry. At the same time, there will be ones that will be different from each, also especially for this particular industry. And in these discussions, one of the things we noticed is people are saying dynamic curricula or syllabus is required. So we were thinking, this is probably a good place to start and find out what is this dynamic. Can we get into the specifics of exactly industry-wise, what is it that we are really looking at? 70% of the people I thought, unemployable is what people are saying, and some of you are saying, no, it's much, much higher. Probably 2 to 3% are the ones that are really skilled and employable. So clearly there is a problem here, and that has to be addressed now. And we have the academia here, Dr. Rachel, to give her perspective, and how to take about the syllabus. I thought we'd go have one round of introduction and subsequently start with follow it up with the company, of course, and then these are the issues we're facing as of now, how we have addressed it, and then we could start the discussion really heat up. Ms. Rachel, you want to begin?
Sure. Hi, I'm Rachel, and I think I've met most of you. I'm here actually to learn from all of you. As I said a little earlier, that the workplace is quite dynamic and the needs are not what they used to be. And we want to understand specifically the needs from different parts of the economy. And maybe they're the same, the needs, maybe they're different. But it would be very useful for students to be aware of the needs, so to speak, from the horse's mouth. And why is that important? I made a discovery the other day which really surprised me. We kept talking about employability. In fact, Indira here, who is the admissions coordinator, was talking about employability. And we had a room of about 50 students. And I saw them kind of, no chord was being struck. So I said, excuse me, do you know that there is an employability problem? And none of them did. Okay, these people who are joining the MBA program, so they have a very different view of the future and expectations, etc. So it would be useful for them to hear from industry, not just from academia who seem to be saying, look, you have to change, etc., or you have to be different, or you have to come up with different sorts of skills. We think it's a widespread problem which everybody knows about, but the target scene doesn't seem to be aware of it. Yes. So this is really quite an important issue for us as academics, to make sure that we are able to convey this in a meaningful manner, as well as to help resolve the problem in a meaningful manner that is relevant to industry. So that is why I'm here, to hear from all of you.
When we look at from the industry perspective, the interesting part is we go to the campus, we look at the talent. And when we look at that talent, the challenge of employability comes from the perspective that they are there to complete the curriculum. Curriculum is completed, they have understood. There is a set of case studies which needs to be go through. There is a set of methodologies and the analysis from the various case studies that need to drive. They have gone through it. But the moment you put across a question with respect to the applications of the same things, that is found to be wanting. In terms of their key derivable or why they have joined the institute is from the perspective of job opportunity. I have because of the personal interest, I have been touching base with the various B schools as well. And the interesting part which came to me was I was taking the subject of human resource management. For the first year students. And normally I take the specialization as the first time. And I found that no one was really interested. And the moment I started the thing, I said, okay, tell me one thing, all of you are there, out of the class of about 58 odd students, how many are going to be in HR? There were full 3 people. So the next question was, why the others are there in the class? And you'll be surprised, I had to invest the next 2 hours making them understand that this subject is there for the other people who are not in HR. And why is it there? So somewhere in terms of the larger picture, in terms of opening up of the minds, is entirely missing. So there are 2 things which I'll say. One is the application. And the second is understanding of the larger context.
I think you have to give me a little more time, perhaps 2-3 minutes more than my esteemed colleague just mentioned. I'd like to say like this. Around 30 years experience I have. If I divide in 30 years, 1.5 years as an advocate, Supreme Court of India. 2 years in academics, including Director General of Business School. And rest around 25 years plus in the industry. Both national and international. Prior to joining this place, I was a global head HR and strategy based at Muscat, looking after the entire Middle East. Now I like to get back first what my experience was, as an academician, because I came from industry. I came from court. I'm a student of law and student of management, both in practice and also, in academics. And a product of the first study. One thing which surprised me, if I come back straight to the first revamping of the syllabus we're talking about, the way they were preparing the syllabus. This is a good book. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 good books. Okay. I'll pick up some important subjects from here and there and make a syllabus. That's look very nice. This is the problem even today, because as he's saying, I also go to a number of business schools still, because since I have a passion for teaching, still I go back to those places. I still find these curriculum, the syllabus is not at all, as you said, applicable. It is still, taking some of the high-sounding topics and let us, include in the syllabus. The worst part, which is again in my personal observation, the delivery. You have a number of topics before you, but who is going to deliver? Who is going to talk? You don't have that kind of exposure, that kind of experience. He's going to explain to you. And the kind of case studies you have. The case studies are also, you'll find the old case studies or case studies. They're old. They may not be relevant.
Delivery, you mean in terms of the faculty?
Yes. Faculty.
Yes.
The faculty.
Yeah.
So therefore, you have one syllabus. It is still requires a lot of changes. I don't say they are bad. But what is important, they may be very attractive. Can it be sold? When somebody is coming to hire you, they don't know even how to write a biodata. This is again, you have to go to specialists to see the biodatas also written.
Yes,
This is
professionally.
strategy. This is tragedy in the sense when you read the CVs, even at the VP level today, you'll find this kind of things are also happening. But let's not get into that. I repeat, the delivery is also a problem. The syllabus is itself required a lot of improvement and changes. And the third, the kind of students were also coming in academic, in business schools. That is also going to be a concern, because how they will be employed? If you don't have the funda, if you don't have the concepts are very clear, the industry is not going to hire you. Therefore, there is also a question mark. The kind of delivery of the teachers, the way I'm teaching and giving it to you, and I'm absorbing, and he is coming to interview me, there's a huge disconnect. So this is a matter of serious concern. As I was mentioning, I had a chance to be one of the meetings yesterday at ISTD, and I just shared with you in the morning that employability-wise, half of the world population belonged to the bracket of 1977 to 1997. 1977 to 1997, 50%. And I made that kind of, so let me try in my organization across cements, power, tobacco, dairy, a huge group. Ours is a huge group. I try to see how it lies. To my utter surprise, I found that the sample which I took, it is very close to that figure. Now, therefore, this is one set of people who require training and retraining and unlearning. The people who are coming now, I don't know what they're going to give it to us. Therefore, it's a matter of concern. We talk right from I think when I was class 9 or class 10, I studied what you call human capital formation.
Yes. But
Simon Coutts.
Yes.
If you study economics,
Yes.
still it is there. And I was remembering yesterday the same thing. The human capital formation is not today's concept. It's been in Adam Smith's time is also talked about. But how we are forming the capital? What the generation is going to get next? There's a huge question marks of the generation next is concerned. Therefore, the structure of the syllabus, the faculty, and the kind of the knowledge that's going to get, if they are not looked into very seriously, I'm afraid whatever structure you talk, whatever mantra you have to give, is going to be a huge question mark for us. Let's not talk about, Mr. Shenoy is talking about skill formation, national skill development and all those things. Well, I don't know how they're going to do it, whether it's a workman or the supervisor level or at the business executive level. We have a serious problem. Whether it's an ITI curriculum or is a diploma holders in engineering curriculum. I'm sure the engineers here, they must be doing very well. But as I said, with 30 around years of experience of having worked in different companies, FMCG, large chemicals, automobile, I find everywhere this has emerged today. We'll catch up
Yes,
when we move
yes. Things will heat up. Nitin, you want to?
Sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Nitin Bhatt. I lead globally recruitment and HR shared services for a company called Genpact. So we hire in over 20 countries, hire over 20,000 people. So fairly large scale, industrial scale hiring we do, right? Of diverse skills. We hire all sorts of talent from undergrads for like contact centers to doctors, actuaries, chartered accountants, top B schools in India. So it's a diverse set of educational backgrounds from which we hire, and for a variety of roles in various countries. So it's a fairly wide canvas. As I was mentioning to you, just before the discussion started, for us we see only 5 to 6% of people that first self-select themselves and apply, to Genpact, ultimately making it to the company. So that 70% is 30% of people are employable is, I think, at an aggregate level possibly, if you include all industries, etc. When they apply to individual companies, so if somebody's applied to us, we see only 5-6% of people making it through. So for us, it's a big churn. So you can well imagine to get that 20,000 people. What that means is, anywhere between some 500,000 people we have to put through the funnel, to get that 20,000 people, right? So clearly, we believe there is a there's a definite gap between what the industry expects and what's out there. So I just put maybe two points. One is definitely the one of application, but if I were to dig a little deeper into that, I think it's about conceptual understanding of things, rather than understanding it only in the context in which it's being taught. So somebody is being taught accounting, right? So instead of understanding the accounting principles and things like that, they possibly understood that something goes to the left, something goes to the right. It doesn't matter. Somewhere else it will go up and down, and some other place, it will be called something else. So the concepts have not been understood. What's been understood is in that context how to do something, reproduce it, and pass an exam. So that's clearly for us, is a major challenge. And the way we look at things is, you have a practical problem. The way to solve it is you convert that practical problem into a conceptual problem. Find a conceptual solution and translate it back to a practical solution. Because ultimately there are practical problems and there are practical solutions. But in between, you need to be able to convert it, because you could run everything, but this is the way you will solve for tough stuff, right? So this is one clear thing we see missing. Second is what I would term as sort of soft skills, right? It's by very definition, we call it soft skills. So especially those with an engineering background, including myself, right? A lot of us initially would have been brought up thinking, soft skills are not the really important stuff. This is what the people who can't crack the hard skills do, right? But really, if you see, even when I go to the top B schools, and I'm talking about here the really top, probably rank the top 10 all these schools in the country, I find that students can't express themselves well. They can't stand up and communicate. They can't present. But definitely their aspirations are that in 10 years I want to be CEO, right? And they can't even put a sentence together. They can't communicate. They just can't. And this is across the board. The soft skills, communication skills, ability to stand up and talk to a large audience, even in a one-on-one, not a threatening environment at all. One-on-one, they're asking somebody something, even that they're not able to clearly articulate what they want to say. Right? So I think that's another key challenge, the soft skills part, not being there. So, and I think really the other is, the world is becoming obviously global, and especially for us, as the nature of our business is such that every day we'll work with teams across the world, right? So you'll have a team and somebody sitting in Philippines, somebody in Japan, somebody in China, somebody in India, somebody in Europe, and somebody in Europe. So across the world. And you're working, and so the requirement is to be global every day. Not once in a while, not once in one quarter in a meeting or something. It's every day you have to work with global teams. So therefore there is a requirement for the person to be really not so in the way they think, they express themselves, allow the others to interact with them. Our education system, I think, has sort of inculcated a belief that you sort of highly, I won't be even call it assertive, it's aggressive, alpha male type of personality is what will get you forward. But that's not how it works across cultures, especially say talking to somebody from say Latin America or somebody from Japan. That's not how you interact. You don't, maybe it works in the US, right? But I've seen that to be fairly similar with India, but it won't work in Latin America, it won't work in Japan. So I think the way, the curriculum I think should include, how to be really global, really work with global teams. So that's it, I think that's more.
Hi, I am Ashish Mishra, and I am part of this TV HR team. See, in the past I have worked in a variety of industries, say cement industry, and steel, and auto ancillary business, then consumer durables, moved on to multiplex operations within this group, and now part of Dish TV operations, which is into providing service and has got a call center of fairly decent size too. And in my 20 years of experience in the corporate world, I can't name an industry where I felt that we have got enough talent available at entry level for this industry. Unfortunately, in India, academics has been considered as a workshop, and output of that is a job. So the entry is for the job only. So when you have this entry decision in mind that the objective is to get job, you will look at options which help you in getting better job only. That's a big problem. We need to focus on imparting actual knowledge. This is on one part that people look at job. On the other part, those who are on the management of academics, they are interested, they consider it as business. So I get this many percentage of students employed, this is what the exit salary is. So if I improve on these two parameters, my institute becomes more successful. It is considered more successful in the eyes of others. So with this in mind, if I start, I don't focus on core area of education. Now if I look at, say for example, mechanical engineering, all the levels of mechanical engineering, if I take a guy who has done ITI in welding, I ask him to do a soldering properly, he won't be able to do that. There is a dearth of people who straight come out of ITI institute and are able to do this. They are certified, and because there are nobody available who can do this, they get a job. And industry has assumed over a period of time that initial few years they have to spend in getting this person actually trained in that aspect. Now when I go to a campus, I assume that the guy is going to be productive after at least 8 months or 10 months or a year or 2 years, depending on the complexity of the nature. I don't go to an institute thinking that I will get a ready-made material. This is even when the whole institution side has focused only on the employment side, this is what the scenario is. If you assume that this focus would not have been there, situation would happen first. I think we need to change this approach at all. In place of having this employment in mind, we need to have the basic focus on the basics of that of that education, of that stream in which the guy is interested. We need to have more emphasis on research, on in-depth application of various theories which are taught in the campuses. There are promoters of academic institutes who are very rich, and as per the guidelines they have to spend certain amount of money in the infrastructure. I'm not sure whether that much of money has been spent and all the institutes have the relevant infrastructure. Many of the institutes have substandard infrastructure. They don't have laboratories of the size and of the complexities which should be there. And also if there are, then they are not made available to students to practice. They don't get opportunity to work on those machines. I'm talking majority of India. I'm not talking about a few of them because there would always be some exceptions. But this is what the trend is. A guy will come talk about bearing for half an hour. He will give you lecture on bearing for half an hour. You give him bearing, ask him to identify the bearing or open it, he will definitely fail. I'm talking about a fish. He won't be able to do this. So there is huge gap when it comes to the application and the actual knowledge and what is taught in the institutes as theory. If you meet a guy who is qualified as MA English, you cannot be sure that the guy will be able to speak 2 minutes fluently in English without making any mistakes. Chances are very high that he will fail. Now, if I talk about MA English, this is not a course which is based on application, industry application. It is a very generic language-based course, and there also such a high failure rate. And it's not only for English, it will come true for Hindi also. If you take a guy who has done MA Hindi, and you can't be sure that the guy will not make mistake. We have all along been focusing on qualifications, what's your qualification, rather than what exactly you know. So my qualification is such and such, and I did it from this institute. This is what has become parameter for success in academics. We don't talk about, in my education, I did this research work, which helped such and such product improve, which helped some new innovations, some new dimensions. This is a big gap in the approach itself. Second, I will focus on the way we look at. I agree with you when you mentioned on the syllabus part. We in industry receive so many requests to come and give guest lectures, to come and participate in conferences. But in my career, I have seen hardly 2 or 3 institutes which have come to us that please look at our syllabus and help us in improvising. This is something which academicians have thought that is their prerogative, and industry can't contribute much if it is not a new industry. When we started multiplex operations, I tried to locate one institute in India, I'm talking about 2006, which focuses on retail and has got multiplex also as an operation. It was not there. Multiplex is still not being taught in any of the institute, though multiplex is a big industry now. We have got such a large FMCG base, we have got such a big consumer base for consumer durables. We don't have an institute in India which gives separate qualifications for marketing and sales. Everybody undergoes an MBA course in marketing, and 95% of them end up in getting a job in sales.
Yes.
Now, I think there is this need that we differentiate the two. Students must understand the difference between the two in execution. We don't do this. There is a large amount of work which needs to be done in considering academics, one as purely academics, which is contemporary academics, which keeps pace with the development in industry, which focuses on research, which focuses on being at par with industry when it comes to knowledge. When this happens, then probably our institutes will be able not to be driven by the industry, but they will become a driver. I am not sure that in near future I'll be able to see a campus where I go and pick up someone who can immediately start serving, who does not require training. I'm not saying orientation, who can start serving immediately. There is a big gap. And this will happen when we leave employability part and we focus on the core of the subject which one is going through. India is growing at fast pace. We have got so many other economies, and this collaboration is happening once industry is going there. Industry has gone to Africa. So now institutes have started looking towards Africa. There is still not much focus in Africa-based studies in management institutes. Still at very primitive stage. Latin America, again the same way. We have focused only on Europe, US and China. Sometimes in Japan. Case studies do not come from such countries where industry is going. So institutes have to look at something before industry starts doing it. When they do this, they will be able to provide leadership in talent, and they will be able to come forward and meet the expectations. Otherwise, it will always remain a game of employability.
Your perspective.
Hi, I'm Vikrant Bhattacharya and I work with Airtel. Currently, I lead the functional skills development vertical for Airtel. I'm a part of the HR learning and development team. I've been with Airtel for about 6.5 years now, and before that I was with the Infosys Leadership Institute for 4 years. Primarily, my stay has been with the IT and telecom industry throughout my career. My first job, incidentally, was with professional tutorials who are into